is up to all of my little unicorns, new and old? It's your girl TheWestIndieRay, back again with another information-filled video. Now today's video is going to be a wedding themed video. I haven't done one of those in a while, so I wanted to come on here and tell you guys everything that I've done with my wedding so far, give you guys a little insight about how to go about completing some of these tasks that seem a little bit overwhelming. And I also have a list of tips at the end for you guys to kind of save money and just make the day your dream day. So hopping right into it, the first thing you want to do when you get engaged is set a budget. Of course, you have to dream and think about what your dream wedding is going to be like, but I think the most important thing to make sure that your expectations and your realities align is just to start off with a budget. So with the budget, okay, it's going to be different for everybody. I know we always want to know how much should you spend on this and how much did that cost. I wish I had a more straightforward answer for you guys on how much is reasonable or how much you should spend. The national average is about $34,000 last time I checked, which to me I think is astronomical. But it really just depends on what it is that you want and what your priorities are. If your priority is spending the least amount possible, you might have to cut your guest list by 50 people. Or maybe even get married in a different venue than the one that you always dreamed of. So it's not that it's not possible to have a $15,000 wedding or a $10,000 wedding or even a $5,000 wedding or a $300 wedding. All of that is possible. It just depends on what you want the experience to be like, how you want your guests to experience it, how many people are going to be there, and where you want to get married. If you are a lucky person who has a year to plan, unlike me who only had 8 months, you're able to kind of like budget and figure these things out. And another thing is that I don't want you guys to get so discouraged hearing big numbers like that, because when you break it down, if you have people who are willing to help you pay for things, it's really not as much as it looks like from a single person. The more people, the merrier. This is really one of those main character moments where you can kind of feel open to allowing other people to help you. I know in our everyday life, like if something happens, we don't want people to feel sympathy for us and we don't want people to try to contribute and give us things. We don't have to owe anybody anything. But when it comes to weddings, I'm telling you this right now, number one is allow people to help you. And number two is don't allow that help to dictate what you do with your dream day. Be respectful. Of course, if they want to have a hand in planning things and they want to be involved, of course, this is a great time for you to involve your family and friends and people who care enough about you to spend on you in that process. Great time for that. But at the end of the day, it is your day. It is your fiance's day. And it's about the two of you. That might make you not want to accept things from certain people who are going to try to hijack your day. That way you could kind of gauge where you're at and what's possible according to your budget. Second is going to be the venue. The venue is a really big one, especially if you're a person who has a very short engagement like me. We only had 8 months to prepare for this wedding, and a lot of venues are booked out like a year in advance, sometimes even more than that. The day of the week is also one of those factors. Like a venue might be booked out for Saturdays for a year and a half, but then they might have a Sunday like a couple months from now, or even a weekday. A lot of people don't like getting married on weekdays because, you know, it's a little bit harder for people to make it in town. But if you are a person who wants a small wedding, that's perfect. Not a lot of people will make the sacrifice to take the days off and travel to come to your wedding on a weekday. So if you only want to have 50 people at your wedding, but you know that you kind of have to invite those extra 30 people just to like be nice, you might want to consider having your wedding on a Thursday or a Monday so that they don't show up. Another really valuable tip when it comes to picking a venue is something that I did myself, and that is going to an event center rather than a place that specializes in weddings. If you go to a straight up wedding venue, you are going to end up paying a lot of money, especially if it's at somewhere like a wine vineyard or a rooftop or something like that. It's going to be a lot more money because that's what they run their whole entire business on. But if you go somewhere like a state park, which don't hate on state parks because sometimes they're actually really nice, or an event center or a community center or something like that, a lot of times they will rent you that venue for a way cheaper price than you'll find anywhere else. And our venue is gorgeous. So I would highly suggest broadening your search and maybe not getting too pent up on if it's an actual wedding venue or not. If you live in maybe a more rural area where, you know, you have people in your family that have huge backyards, you might even want to get married there because, you know, everybody likes free stuff. So definitely do that. And my other biggest tip when it comes to finding a wedding venue is looking online first. Before you even go and make calls and tour and do all those things, you want to look online to see kind of what's available in your area. A lot of times they'll have the prices online, they'll have pictures, virtual tours. Sometimes they'll even have a list of available dates so you can kind of gauge when your wedding venue will be available. I'll also leave a link to my wedding venue tour video right up here so that you guys can see where I went and how much things cost and all of that good stuff. The next thing I did, I actually did the same exact weekend that I found my wedding venue. I went dress shopping. Dress shopping should be a magical experience. Like the experience that you see on TV on Say Yes to the Dress, it should be that. So don't settle for anything less. My wedding dress shop experience started off a little bit rocky because the first place we went to, it was clear that the staff just didn't care about my experience or that this was going to be a very like life-changing point in my life. When we went in there, the girls in the shop were talking about how they couldn't wait to get off of work that day. They just weren't really personable. And when I told them what I was looking for, the girl told me like, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're probably not gonna find that here. It just was kind of discouraging and it didn't give me that fairy tale experience that I was really looking for. So in situations like that, I would say it's a sign that you should not be there. Leave, go somewhere else and find the experience that you're looking for. It's not just about finding the dress, it's about the whole process of being there with people who love you and who you love and really just, you know, feeling like a bride for the first time. I went wedding shopping with my cousin Tish, who's a bridesmaid, my maid of honor Day, who you've seen in other videos before, and one of my close friends Wesley, and we had a great time. It was a little bittersweet for me not being able to have my mom physically there, although she was there in spirit, but those girls really made me feel special on that day, and we ended up going out to eat and going for drinks after. It was just like a beautiful experience. Like I cried and everything. I vlogged it, so you guys will see after the wedding, after everybody sees my wedding dress and it's not a secret anymore, I will post that video. The reason why I wanted to get this done so early is because, like I said, I had a very short engagement, which is 8 months long, and I was glad that I did it early because my dress could take up to 6 months to be made and shipped to me, and then I would have to get alterations on it. So in order to ensure that I got all of my stuff on time, I did it ahead of time. People on Instagram were like, dang, you didn't waste no time, and I didn't. That's another thing that I want to say. Don't be shy about your timeline. If you get engaged and you want to start planning right away, start planning right away. All that means is that you're going to have all your ducks in order. You're going to have more time to budget and plan, and it's just going to work out better for you. It's going to be a lot more stress-free for you. Anybody who wants to criticize people for hopping right into wedding planning after they get engaged is childish, okay? Something that Mr. West Indie Ray and I actually did before we even got engaged was pick our wedding parties. I already knew who was going to be in it from before because we talked about it. He already picked his guys as well. But one thing that I do want to say about the wedding party situation is that you want to pick people who you love, who are close to you. Pick as many or as little as you like. I know some people who got married, and because of the way things went down at the wedding, they're not friends with most of the people who were actually in their wedding parties anymore. To me, that's heartbreaking. So you want to think of who's going to be good for this position, and also the dynamics of the group. Not so much, oh, she's not going to want her to be in it, or she's not going to want this person to be in it. That's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is, how are these people as a group going to be making you feel on your actual wedding day, and even leading up to it? Like, is it going to be a cohesive group? Are you all going to be able to have fun, or is it going to be difficult? You might even want to think about limiting your wedding party to your sister, your cousin, and your best friend, and then just inviting extra people to the bachelorette so that your other friends can experience it with you, but they don't necessarily have the pressure of being in the actual wedding. Another thing that I recommend doing when asking somebody to be in your wedding is let everybody know up front how much the financial responsibility will be. Are they gonna have to pay for their dress? Are they gonna have to pay for their makeup? Are they gonna have to chip into the bachelorette? Let them know when you ask them if they wanna be in it, how much financial burden this is going to entail, because being in a wedding is not cheap. I also have a video coming up where I show you guys my bridesmaid boxes and how we did everything and all that, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget, just because somebody is not in the wedding party does not mean that they cannot attend your bachelor or bachelorette festivities. The next thing I did when it came to my wedding was hire a wedding planner. Wedding planners can be super expensive, but if you don't want to hire somebody to plan your wedding from top to bottom, you can hire a day of planner. That is exactly what I did. I'm planning the bulk of this wedding by myself, and my bridesmaids and maid of honor are helping me here and there. And of course, my fiance is helping me, mostly with the things like choosing food and the music and all that stuff. But you are gonna wanna have somebody there that is going to help you coordinate on the day of, so that the DJ knows what they're playing, so that your wedding party knows when to walk down the aisle, so that the guests know where they're going after the ceremony is over for cocktail hour. You're gonna want somebody there to coordinate all of that. Some venues actually come with a day of planner, or they call it like event coordinator or something like that. So that's another thing that you could consider when picking a venue. Does it come with one of those? Is there an extra charge for that, or is it free? How many on-site staff is gonna be there? And that's something that you're gonna have to ask your day of wedding planner or your wedding planner as well. Is it just gonna be you on the day of, or are you gonna have an assistant? And even though it's called a day of planner, a lot of times they'll actually have meetings with you leading up to the wedding. My fiance and I had a meeting with our planner when we first signed up with her, just to get an idea of what we're looking for so that she could shoot us recommendations and people and vendors to look at. And then we're also gonna have a couple more leading up to the wedding. That way we ensure that everything is going to go as planned. You also wanna make sure that your wedding planner has the connections that you want them to have. For me personally, I was really focused on hiring Black-owned businesses as my vendors at my wedding. She is a Black woman-owned business, so I already accomplished that in hiring her. And then she's also within the community, so she was able to give me good recommendations of other vendors I can hire, like for flowers and for the cake and things like that. And just for reference, my wedding planner was $1,350. I feel like most day of coordinators were around that price. I did find a couple that were cheaper, but their services didn't really match the quality of service that we'd be getting with the $1,350 person. And our conversations just didn't click the way that they clicked with the $1,350 girl. So I went with what I felt like was best for us. Also, she's an HBCU alum, even though she went to the wrong HBCU. She went to Bethune instead of FAMU, which, you know, who does that? I guess people who want their team to get spanked by 25 points do that. But nonetheless, HBCU educated Black woman, and that's what I'm about. So I hired her and she's amazing. The next thing I did was got a recommendation from my wedding planner for an officiant. You can look on websites like Wedding Wire or Zola for officiants. There's also Thumbtack. Our officiant ended up being $250. Sometimes they include rehearsal dinners. So if you have a rehearsal dinner and you want the officiant to be there, they'll come out for that. Sometimes they have travel fees, so ask about that. But some of the things that I was looking for in an officiant is, of course, like I said, I wanted to do Black vendors for my wedding, and she is a Black woman, so that was really cool. I also looked at her pictures to see what she typically wears in a wedding ceremony, and this girl is always dressed to the nines, okay? Like, she always looks good. Some of the officiants that I saw on Thumbtack wore like, you know, very casual clothes or things that just didn't look well put together. And that's one of the main reasons why I decided not to go with any of the ones that I found on Thumbtack. But this lady, she's always dressed really cute. She always looks well put together. She had really great reviews online, and she was also very organized. That's one of the biggest things that I would say when it comes to planning a wedding. You're gonna be doing a lot of email communication with people. You're gonna be seeing the PDFs and the packages that they put together for you. And if they look janky and they don't look organized and they're not sending the information on time, those are all things that you have to consider when you're thinking about hiring somebody. Because if you can't send me the contract when you said you were going to send it, are you going to show up for my service when you're supposed to show up for my service? Are you going to be on time for the wedding? The next things I did was I secured the videographer, the photographer, and the DJ. These things can be super expensive, but if you know somebody, please tap into those connections and see if they would be willing to give you a discounted price as a wedding gift. Sometimes people will even do it for free. Personally, my videographer, photographer, and my DJ are all really good friends of mine, and they're giving me a discounted price, which is helping me save a lot of money for the wedding. Another thing that I would say about these types of vendors is make sure they either A, have all of the permits and meet all the requirements for working at your venue, or B, your venue does not require them to have any special permits. Another tip to save some money is to go with vendors who are really good but maybe aren't like that established in the wedding industry. That way you can get them for a lot cheaper than you would get maybe a seasoned professional who's been in the game for 10 years. Another thing that I would ask my day of coordinator or my wedding planner is if they have any connections with anybody who does live music. Our coordinator actually connected us with an amazing saxophonist who's gonna be at our wedding, and he's only charging like $400. So it's a lot less than what I thought it was gonna be, but I just feel like it'll elevate the experience a lot. The next thing that I figured out after all of that was my makeup artist. It's actually somebody who I've known for a long time. I actually went to middle school with this guy, so he's giving me a really good deal on some makeup. But the biggest thing with that is to make sure that you do a trial with them before the wedding to make sure that they have a crystal clear idea on what you want and how you like your makeup to be done. You're also going to ask if they have discounts for groups, because if they do, then you could probably get your bridesmaids at a discounted price. And I think it could be really nice to have everybody's makeup done by the same person. That way you all kind of have the same theme. Like nobody's doing a smoky eye and the other one is doing a very natural look. Everybody kind of looks, you know, uniform. I also have my hairstylist, which is one of my great friends, Kisa. And she's done my hair many times before when it was loose natural, and she does my cousin's locks. She's never done my locks before, but I've seen her work and she's great, and she also knows my scalp. This is also somebody who you are going to want to do a trial with. One of the tips that I saw online to save money is when you do your trial, try to plan it for a day where you're going to get your pictures taken or go somewhere fancy so that you're not wasting a whole makeup and hair look. I also know who's gonna do my nails for the wedding. It's my cousin Chevy, who I love so much, and she's also a bridesmaid. So that's all squared away because nobody does better nails than her. I also sent out my invites. I did that through Zola. I built my website through them, and then they give you this thing called a super link, which is like a personalized link that you can send to all the people that you want to invite to your wedding. Once they open the link, they'll be able to type in all of their information, which is like their address, their email, their phone number, all that good stuff. And then when it's time to design your invitations, you just design them. You can even select addressing, which Zola will put names on the envelopes for free. And then once you get all of your stuff, you just put the invitation in the envelope, you stick a stamp on it, and you send them off. They can also RSVP through your website as well, so it just makes the process a lot easier. Another thing that we did is we went to go try on our wedding bands. So he knows exactly what I want. I know exactly what he wants. One of the things that we're doing to save money is getting the wedding bands from an outlet store. So let's say like Zale's outlet or Jared's outlet. It's still gonna be 14 karat gold, but it is just going to be from an outlet store, so you'll get their discounted prices. So yeah, we did try on rings. It was an amazing experience because Mr. WestIndieRay has never tried on a ring before, and he was just over the moon. It was really cute, so we did that. We've also figured out our caterer. So a little bit of background on our venue is they actually require us to work off of a preferred vendor list. A preferred vendor list is basically just a list of vendors that you have to go through. Some venues require you to go through them, like they have an in-house chef that they use and you have to go through them, which can be really expensive. Some have a preferred vendor list like ours. On our list, we had 11 vendors to choose from, and we tasted, I want to say 3 or 4 of them. And then some venues actually allow you to pick whoever you want for your food. Your aunt can make your food, you can make your food, anybody can make your food. That tends to be the cheapest route because you just have so many more options. Whereas if everybody on your preferred vendor list is like $7,000 and up for 100 people, like you're basically just gonna have to take that L and pay for it. But for us, it's really not that bad because our venue is so cheap, it kind of balances out. Picking the catering is actually a really fun part though, especially to do as a couple. How the process typically works is you call around, figure out what type of food they have, what availability they have. They'll send you their whole entire menu, or if they have several menus, they'll send you a lunch, a dinner, a breakfast, a whatever. There's so many different menu options with a lot of these caterers, so you just have to look through all of them and pick the one that suits you best. Then from there, you will schedule a tasting. A lot of times the tastings will be free. Sometimes they charge $25 a person, sometimes $50 a person. But a lot of times, even if they charge, if you end up booking with them, that money will go towards, you know, your actual food for the wedding. So there's this never-ending debate on what's a better option, to have a plated dinner or a buffet. There's pros and cons to each. Plated dinners, a lot of times they just look more classy. It feels like more of an elevated experience. Some people think buffets are like ghetto or it doesn't look good. But in our case, there are ways to elevate the experience. So for us, we're doing a brunch style wedding, which is going to be a lot more cost effective than doing a dinner option, which would be like chicken or fish with like a spring salad and asparagus lightly drizzled with freaking balsamic vinegar, like whatever. So we're going to do a brunch buffet, but to elevate the experience, we're doing past hors d'oeuvres. So there will be people walking around passing out hors d'oeuvres during the cocktail hour. And we're also having chef attended stations. So it's not like they'll be scooping their own grits, like they're still going to be getting served. People are gonna get their plates at the little station, go down the line, get all of their food, and then we're gonna have a chef attended station there. So there'll be somebody there making omelets, and I believe we're considering doing another chef attended station, but it's just gonna elevate the whole experience even more. So nobody's gonna be serving themselves, even though they'll have to get up and walk through the line. Nobody's gonna actually be serving themselves. And then there's that just elevated extra thing that people can kind of feel like they're customizing something, and you know, having a chef there, that's pretty lit. Also, when it comes to the food, a lot of times they'll be the ones to do all of your setups, like the glassware and the silverware and the china and all that stuff. So we figured all that out and we know what it's gonna look like. And we're gonna finalize all of that when we go through the walkthrough at the actual venue, which is really important because sometimes things look good in concept, but when you actually put them inside of a room and take into account what the floors look like and what the color of the walls are like, it looks completely different. So we've gotten all that figured out, but we just have to finalize all that. And now for the tips, because I know I've been talking a lot and y'all are ready for some tips. So the first tip that I am going to tell you is to make sure that you go over with your fiance what your priorities are. There are going to be some corners that you're gonna cut in this process to save money, but you wanna make sure that you establish what your priorities are between the two of you so that the corners that you cut aren't the ones that are most important to you. My next tip is to remember that at the end of the day, people might have their opinions and people might, you know, have money invested into it, so they want things to happen their way, but it's really about you and your partner, okay? A lot of times people turn into bridezillas and they start thinking it's all about me, 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 but this is one of the most life-changing experiences, not just for you, but for your partner as well. So although we are being stern and we are making sure that this day is exactly how we want it to be, we are also listening to our partner because they are the other person who's going through this with you, and you want it to be a shared experience. Another thing that really helped us save money is to cut costs on Save the Dates. That saved us probably about like $200 something. So yeah, if you are open to just sending out invites or maybe doing electronic invites and things like that, I would say go for it, because Save the Dates, it's just more paper. It's not the best for the environment, and you know, why? My next tip is to have the officiant move after you guys say your vows and it's time for the first kiss. Just make sure that person knows to move out of the way so that they are not in any of your first kiss pictures. That's something that I saw on TikTok and I just wanted to do it. So I wanted to share that information with y'all as well if it's something that you haven't thought of for yourself. My next tip is that when you're looking for venues, try to get a venue that is already decorated a little bit. For instance, our venue has these huge windows and they have like these really pretty drapes and things like that. So that is some dressing up that's already been done to the venue that we don't have to do ourselves. We don't have to put as much effort into making the venue look good. So that's just something to remember when you're looking for venues. That could save you a lot of money on decorations. The next tip, like I said before, sometimes they'll require your photographer and your videographer to get special permits, which could up the cost of your wedding in general. So you want to make sure that you know all that stuff before you actually book with somebody. My next tip is that if you are planning to give your partner a gift on the wedding day, don't wait until the last minute to think about the gift, what kind of gift you're getting, and order the gift. You want to just make sure that you're not waiting till the last minute, because the longer you wait, the fewer options you'll have. My next tip, which could also save you a lot of money, is to consider the off season when you are looking for dates for your wedding. A lot of times venues will have cheaper prices in whatever the off season for that area is. So make sure you know what the off season is and compare prices from each of those seasons to see what is going to be the best fit for you and your budget. And then you might also want to do a Sunday wedding instead of a Saturday wedding, or a weekday wedding instead of a Friday wedding. Just look at your options and see what works best. My next tip is something that we're actually doing at our wedding, and that is staying in the same location for both the ceremony and the reception. A lot of times it's a lot more hassle or even a lot more money to go from one place to the next place. We don't have to spend money on transportation between the ceremony location and the reception location. Our guests also don't have to worry about parking and moving their cars and getting there on time. Traffic, we don't have to be worried about decorating so many places or staff to clean up those decorations in different places after we've gone. And that brings me into my last tip, is repurposing your florals. If you have floral arrangements at your wedding, if you have them in the ceremony, they can be moved to the next room where the reception is going to be held so that you don't have to buy double the flowers. You can also have your bridesmaids take their bouquets and drop them in preset, arrangements on the table so that they can be small centerpieces as well. There's so many things that you can do with the florals and ways to repurpose them, and I would highly, highly recommend thinking about ways that you can do that for your wedding. So that about wraps it up. I know I said so much, but I hope that it was very helpful. If you made it to the end of the video, leave me a little unicorn emoji in the comment section below. And if you have any tips on how to save money during wedding planning, make sure you leave them in the comment section below as well. Also, let me know if there's any more wedding themed content that you are looking to get out of me, anything that you want me to elaborate on. I have the bridesmaid box video coming up. I also have a dress shopping video coming up. I'm also going to show you guys like the breakdown of my budget and all that stuff one of these days in a video coming up. So let me know if there's anything else that you want to see. Again, as usual, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. Follow all my social media accounts right down there, and I'll see you in the next video.